What's up? It's Rubasha here, and we're at the Afroprenuerus Summit 2023. You see, in this day and age that we're living in now, we're not going to talk about the problems anymore. Racism, all these agendas that we're having. We're going to talk about the solutions. How can we empower our own people? How can we come together and really build and take an example for the generations to come? You see, I take inspiration from myself. The day and age we're living in, there's no more excuses. You see, someone like me, I'm a professional footballer, a global thought leader, an entrepreneur, and some may even call me a rapper. Shit, a man of all trades. No excuses, take ownership, and really let's build together and empower our own people. No more distractions.
The hallmark of a true leader is that a leader is someone who can help their followers or their team members transition from a threat state into a reward state.
Yo, Eve. Creative pathway, or a pathway that has led me through so many different ways, but finally into an arts and cultural space that journey that will come through. And that is all I will say about myself. The battle of anything or half of success is showing up, and you've all shown up today. So we are talking about entrepreneurship mindset, skills, and habits. So what are the foundations for success that
You're guaranteed that you're going to use a lot of your time building your business. So it's not for everybody, right? So a lot of people who want that comfort of knowing that I have this regular income every fortnight, I'm getting this amount of money. For some people, that's just not their thing. But the other thing is, for example, entrepreneurship, it never existed in schools, right? Even when we did business studies, it was something very different. You know, some people are creatives, those things were not valued. So when we come out into this world, you're trying to do whatever the system has created for you, which is a very old system that was set up for industrialism. So then you come out of this world whereby you can't think outside the box because you've been programmed to be a university professor or whatever, you know, things like that. So I think the system has contributed to many people not being entrepreneurs. And it's really exciting to see now institutions like Western Sydney are encouraging people to be entrepreneurs, and hopefully that will trickle down into the high schools and the primary schools.
So what I'm actually saying is, what Clyde is doing here is so important, that you're much stronger than individualism.
We learned, and that's worked well. We have a family podcast, and it's all about the solutions. How can we empower our people? You see, media is one of the biggest platforms that can really change industries. It changes lives. If they don't want to portray us Africans in a great way, we start our own media companies. And one of the most important things about personal brand is really the marketing. Posting 3, 4, 5, 6 times a day on social media across all platforms, YouTube, TikTok, Snapchat, everything, to really get your brand and your message out there. Everyone deserves to hear your story. Everyone, and it's up to you to be able to market yourself in a way that can really be impactful for this generation and the next. So those are ways I'm able to market and really get at my personal brand as much as possible.
Hey guys, I know you're enjoying this video, but please take the time, hit the link in the description and sign up to Aloys Rubasha's new screen. You can sign up either monthly or for the year to really invest in yourself, to really cultivate your mindset, cultivate the power of who you truly are. It is all about the knowledge and power that you have with it. And it is the application of the knowledge that is going to take you far in life. This is an investment that is infinite, that has infinite amount of supply, because coming to Aloys Rubasha's teachings, experiencing the word of God. And what is the word of God? It's about empowering yourself. That is what we're putting here for you. We're cultivating a community of like-minded individuals, for people who want to grow, for people who want to continue to cultivate that mindset of, I can do anything I put my mind to. I can go out and work on my health, work on my happiness. Nothing outside of me is going to make me happy. I can work on my love and my beauty because I have everything. I am an amazing person. You are too. So hit the link in the description. It's going to take you to sign up for your U-Screen membership today.
Back home, we know like the backbone of our society is the women, the small business women. We call them mama mboga in Kenya, you know, the women who are selling the vegetables or small shops in the streets. And they support families through that entrepreneurial business. So in a way, there is that entrepreneurial spirit that we have, and we have such role models, but somehow and I don't know where the disconnect comes in. The mindset shifts according, like, and we start thinking entrepreneurship is hard. But as we say, there's challenges and there's all this to think about. But when the backbone of Africa, so that's sort of another sort of mind shift when you're thinking about entrepreneurship and how, I guess, how simple it can be as well. But there's also the complexities of it. So it's that sort of looking at both sides of the coin.
D for discipline, E for excellence, and R is the resilience you need. Okay, so I have gone through this, and linguistically I bring it out like this because it was difficult to learn because the institutions don't teach you to think that way. Okay, so, and also, this is, by the way, I developed my own way of learning because my institutional systems were not really supporting the way I think. So knowing yourself is very important. Very important to know yourself. And once you know yourself, you know your strength, you know your weakness, and you don't worry about your weakness, or work on more of your strength, and bye-bye.
About discipline, which I agree with. And because one of the things that has worked for me is being disciplined, which creates consistency. And for me as a business coach, and I'm trying to grow my client base, having that discipline enables me to be consistent so that anyone who sees me, they know this is Mombi and this is what we're going to expect. For example, why is McDonald's so huge? Is it because they make the best meals? No. They make the best meals, but they are such a huge brand. Why is that? They are consistent. If you go to Dubai, to McDonald's, chips and nuggets, burgers, it's the same thing. So I think for me as an entrepreneur, discipline is very important, and that creates consistency. I know people talk about overnight success, but if you ask any entrepreneur, many entrepreneurs, they'll tell you there's nothing like that. And unfortunately, with this internet age, with all these YouTube and Instagram, you hear about this overnight success. Someone might start posting all these funky videos today, and by next week they have 1 million followers, they've gone viral, and then people kind of want that to happen to them overnight, especially the younger generation. But the thing is, if you've heard about the Chinese bamboo tree, you know that this is something that we can learn as entrepreneurs, because this is the kind of tree where you plant today and you water it, you nurture it, you fertilize it. The first year, nothing happens. Can you imagine in your business, you set up this thing and you're doing all these things in your business and you can't see any results? That's the same thing as the bamboo tree. Second year, you see nothing. Third year, nothing, still underground. 4 years, nothing. And naturally, by this time, a lot of people have given up because you're like, that seedling or seed is already dead because I can't see anything. But we as entrepreneurs, because we are crazy enough to keep going, we continue watering, nurturing, and fertilizing for the 5th year. And this is when something exciting happens. One day you see a little sprig coming out of the ground, and within 5 weeks, the tree has grown up more than 20 meters. So if you had given up on year 4, you've given up on something that was not too far from happening. So for me, as an entrepreneur, what keeps me going is that I know, even if I don't see even if I don't see the results immediately of what I'm doing, I know I'm on the right path. I believe in myself. I've done enough research, and I'm setting up the strong foundation, just like the bamboo tree, so that the day my business will shoot up, the roots are so strong that strong winds have nothing on me.
The product or the service that you provide, to really see what is missing in the market, so that despite all the racism and the setbacks, they have no choice but to come to you, because you're the only person that provide that service or have that product.
Africans, we like to stick together, and Pundi covered that. It's a social thing. I think we are a community, or communitarianism we say, as the way we grow up, we like to stick together. But in entrepreneurship, or in the journey of entrepreneurship, you really have to get out of that mindset. You really have to think of, my community will not be enough. I've met countless of my brothers and sisters who have tried to network only within the Zimbabwean community or the Cameroonian community. How much are we? How many of us are we now? There's so much you can do. We cannot just go beyond that. To go beyond that, we really have to reach out.
Being afraid stops us a lot. You're afraid to be seen. I remember once I do a YouTube channel, and before I started, I was so scared. I was so scared of people seeing me talking. You know, I don't want, and I was judging myself. I did one video and I thought it was a beautiful message, but my t-shirt was so creased, and I was like, I'm not gonna post this because of, little things like that. But we are so afraid to put ourselves out there. We are so afraid to be judged. We are so afraid to be wrong. So that's one of the things that hinders us from going into entrepreneurship because it's a big risk. And then there's this example of, we went to this event when Nika was there, and it was a breakfast with the former Prime Minister of New Zealand, Jacinda Ardern. And one of the things she talked about was doubting yourself and being afraid. And she said throughout her political career, even before she became a Prime Minister, she was so afraid. She doubted herself so much. She didn't feel like she was good enough. But everybody kept encouraging her, we think you're good for this. So she went ahead and did it anyway, and eventually became Prime Minister. But even in that position, she was still so conscious of herself, doubting herself all the time, listening to all these people saying negative things about her. And what she did is she reached out to this politician who, in her eyes...
And that comes up all the time when you're thinking about taking a risk. Okay, so we become closed-minded, we become absence of knowledge is the problem, we become risk-averse, you know?
Afwan, it means how are you?
Oh, Afwan.
Or in Akan we say Akwaba.
Akwaba, okay.
Yeah.
Somebody else from somewhere, maybe 3 more people, yeah?
Cameroon.
Yeah.
It's big, but in my area, in Western Cameroon, we say Yamola, which means how are you?
Yeah, Yamola, how are you? And my friend Clyde.
Yeah, in Congo, in Lingala, I say Ndengenini.
That's all I know from Congo. And maybe last one. I'll talk to my brother, Sanders. I know you come from a very unique place in Zimbabwe. What do they say there? Good morning in that area.
Means good morning.
Yeah.
Management is my business, so I organize corporate events, I organize big festivals, I organize all kinds of exciting events. When I started business, I went in blindfoldedly, like any other entrepreneur, really, because I was a creator first. And like Fundi said, you think you know yourself, but you don't. You really don't. And especially coming from an African background, we have a lot of family influence, a lot of friend influence, a lot of cultural influence that we really don't know until we don't know, until we know. So for me, it was all about what I can create in here first. So I created that, I started it. I was very fortunate because I was open-minded, and I guess I was a friendly guy as well. So those two things helped me a lot. I moved to Sydney by myself, only knew one person who was my father's friend, and he took me in. I went to the first record company that I knew, went and introduced myself blindfoldedly, and just started my journey from there. There's no other way to put it, really. So that's, yes, sorry, what was the question, the second part of it? There was a...
Just what specific skills, strategies, and tools did you use?
Yeah, so I will say this. I did not know anything about business like when I started, definitely. But I was a doer. I got things done. Got them done. Definitely the two things that I understand is that there is your skills, your passion, but business is a totally different ballgame. So I really want people to go away with that message, because there's skills, there's your passion, but business is a totally different ballgame. So my skills and passion got me a lot of places, but I went 10 steps forward and then 12 steps backward all the time, because business is totally different. So I really want to identify that point. Learning business is a whole different skill, and I recommend that you try and learn as much as possible about business before going into business, because you will see the setbacks even after you learn what business is all about. So for me, the two things is one, being self-aware, and Fundi just mentioned that earlier. Like I said, and I mentioned that earlier, we get influenced, we have too many things around us. I mean, Fundi even went into trauma, which is even a whole different level, which we can talk about. But yeah, just understanding those two things, that your skills, your passion is not going to get you across the line with business. You need to learn business. It's a totally different ball game. So really identifying and understanding those two things is super, super important.
I'm a woman, and I thought there's a lot of strength in that, in who I am, to be able to tap into the resources that are in me. Because if I was able to have a child in my womb for 9 months, it means I can actually have more than that I can incubate and then bring them out. So coming from a background of a heavy Christian background, I've heard the word, I've heard all these things being taught, but I wanted them to be very practical.
That pain. If you want to excel in life, you need to have a vision. And when you have a vision, you have to work towards your vision. I really admire how my sister here and Mother Deliwe, how she started up a business, and now that she's sitting back and relaxing, just watching her kids run the business. I think I'm gonna talk to her after this so I can learn a few of some of how she's done it. But what I've done is I was working in the disability sector for the government as well as the private sector. I realized that we needed to, as a manager of a service, I needed to engage the right people.
Are you from Melbourne? They all have food in their homes. When we gather together in the village, in the moonlit village ground, it's not because of the moon. They can all see the moon from their compounds.
I think will allow us to think of things from a base perspective.
I do entrepreneurship development, and what I focus in is mostly getting entrepreneurs or ready to get investment. So I mostly work with the scaling up businesses, but incidentally in doing that, I tend to work with these guys. So I am at the beginning when you are starting, when you want to raise money, and about scaling up. And these guys come in the top on the actual financing.
I just count my blessings. I can't wait to see it. Look at me, mama, I made it.
And I remember I was the chief dissector in the lab, people, and just two of us in the whole continent, Australian woman. And mom wanted to send us some stuff from Lagos, so I raised my hand to be a courier for her. Of course, the people at immigration point in Perth stopped me, like, why are you carrying all these baby products if you're coming for an exam? And I'm like, man, they accommodated me for a week. So they accommodated me for 1 week in Perth, and I did my exams. The council will call, that's minimum. And he said, come into my car, come into the car. And he drove me to my new house, a 5-bedroom house. Wow. All bills paid. And then he showed me this nice, beautiful, brand new Ford Falcon.
So that's yours?
That's mine. With a fuel cash. And he said, this is it. And I was so excited. I thought, oh my God. I almost like a few days to my visa expiring. And so they sent me for medicals and I think I had to go to Geraldine. I've been waiting for a month or two, my visa, I was waiting for the appointment. And he hugged me and he said, Nee, don't worry. You wanted to be a specialist, not a general practitioner. Go and pursue your dreams. So I had to go from a $108,000 contract to to a $55,000 contract.
Wow.
As a junior intern, as an intern in the teaching hospital. But the money wasn't, and I left the 5-bedroom house to live with a Pakistani. He almost killed me with courage. Brain. And this is what we call a threat reward principle. And when at a subconscious level, our brains are constantly searching our environment, all right, either for threat or reward. Of course, the brain has been designed to keep us alive and to maintain our survival. So whether you like it or not, 5 times per second, your brain is constantly getting information from your senses to determine whether there's threat or reward. And so when you are in a threat state as a person, your focus narrows, you generate less insights, you become more problem focused rather than solution focused, and it's difficult for you to problem solve. The hallmark of a true leader is that a leader is someone who can help their followers or their team members transition from a threat state into a reward state. Because when they're in a reward state, they can be team focused, they can be solution focused, they can have a broader perspective, they can generate insights, they can problem solve. So when it comes to leadership coaching from a neuroscience point of view, that I think is probably the most important thing that I would tell any leader or an entrepreneur to be mindful of. We know from a research done here at Macquarie University that a little amount of threat is enough to reduce productivity by more than 50%. All right? And so when people are working and they are in that threat state, especially when the constraints that are within the workplace or in the business is much more than what they can bear, they go from what we call arousal stress, which we all need. Arousal stress is the stress you experience when you have to submit your assignment by tomorrow and you've not done anything. You know how weak you will be and you just get things done, but for 2 weeks you've done nothing. We all need arousal stress to perform, all right? But when it's not managed properly, arousal stress can be overwhelming and can lead to distress. Earlier today, and you should go watch my YouTube video today, I did a 2.5 webinar on imagination, and I talked about some companies. I talked about the iPhone, what Steve Jobs did when they produced the first iPhone, the constraints. I was talking about embracing constraints as a way of enhancing imagination. That we needed to face obstacles for us to be imaginative. And creativity flourishes when we're faced with challenges. When we go through the path of least resistance, we tend to be cognitively complacent and lazy. But when we're faced with obstacles, we tend to dive deep into those deep remote neural connections in our brain to generate insights that are groundbreaking. All right, and that was what happened with the development of an iPhone, which happened in 6 months, or with the ECG machine that GE produced in America, which revolutionized rural medicine. They wanted an EEG machine that was battery operated, that was portable in rural America, ECG machines in hospital, and they gave the engineers a small amount of money, short time to do it. It was pressure. That pressure was not strong enough to break them, but it allowed them to flourish and to generate those insights. So, to summarize, listen, I can go on and on with this, because this is me, man. I like talking on this subject. So I will just summarize it by saying this: that understand that whether you like it or not, at a subconscious level, you and your team members, all right, as a leader, are constantly observing the environment. When man was a hunter-gatherer, of course, what we were running away from would be lions and bears and all that, okay? But now it will be an email, a threat from an email, from the uncertainty of work and contracts and stuff like that. So it's very important that we are able to understand that. The final point I would make, there are 5 or 6 situations that can actually put people in threat, particularly within the workplace. And I have this acronym called accessing someone's mind. So A is autonomy. Anything that deprives people of autonomy tends to get them into a threat state, all right? And if you look at everyone here, usually when I do this keynote, it's usually interactive. So I list out all these potential threats, social threats, and I ask people what would matter to you more. So A is autonomy, C is certainty, the other C is connection, E is equality, S is safety, and the other S I can't remember, sorry. I remember now. All right. And if you look at it, for the other S is status. So for some people, what matters to them, they flourish when they've got autonomy. All right. When they've got autonomy. You know, Google, all right. When I read the IPO's letter of Google, Larry Page and Sergey Brin, when they went public in 2003 or 2007, I read the whole letter they wrote to the investors. And in one of the paragraphs, all right, they said they give 20% of their employees, they allow the employees to use 20% of their time, all right, to pursue their projects, personal projects.
So what I'll place you here.
Big stunts, manifest some plans, I need some big funds. If you ain't with the fam, you can't get nothing. Talking to the mic, I had these hits coming. Big stunts, manifest some plans, I need some big funds. If you ain't with the fam, you
By professional, I currently work for SSI as a multicultural community engagement coordinator, so focusing on the child protection area. You sit down here.
do it with my phone too,
If you really enjoyed this video, make sure to click here, and I'm sure you're gonna love that one.